Trump's threat against Iran's Ayatollah, you know, the supreme leader, could hardly be more explicit. We know where you're hiding. We can get you any time we like, but not just at the moment. So America is completely off the fence now. They're standing foursquare with Israel in the attacks to try and take out Iran's nuclear bunkers.
I don't think they were ever off the fence, actually. I don't think...
Well, they've always been allied with Israel.
Yeah. And I think Israel attacked Iran in the way it did, knowing they had the de facto...
Yes, but America said, Rubio said straight away, this has nothing to do with us.
Yeah,
we want nothing to do with it.
But I think behind the scenes they had the complete blessing of the President of the United States. And now we see publicly perhaps they're even going to join the conflict. I hope they don't, because it would massively escalate it. But you just don't know with Trump.
The US is the chief armour of Israel.
Yeah.
Their intelligence and security services are completely enmeshed, and they would have known this attack was going ahead. And I'm sure if Trump had said, "Do not do this," it wouldn't have happened.
And that's what I mean. We heard from American officials, didn't we? It was reported this week that he had said to Israel, "Do not kill the supreme leader." Now he's actually spoken out publicly about it and said he's not going to be killed for now.
I know a man who survived his own assassination attempt when he was running as a candidate, now threatening to assassinate the leader of another country.
You mentioned enmeshed intelligence. It is formidable, isn't it? I mean, 2 days ago, the new leader of Iran's military, only been in the job for 4 days since his predecessor was assassinated by Israel. He's taken out in a very, very specific strike. They see Israel and Mossad and American intelligence seem to know where everybody is at all times.
Yeah, they penetrated the Iranian services incredibly deeply and know so much. And it's Israel, which is nuclear-armed itself, doesn't acknowledge it has nuclear weapons, but it does, is the military superpower in that region. Its forces are far superior, as we saw. Hamas, with that horrific pogrom, essentially launched a terrorist attack into Israel and killed 1,200 people, murdering people at a music festival in their homes, as well as fighting soldiers. But then we saw with Hezbollah, which had been talked up, and Hezbollah was a threat to Israel because it could fire rockets and so on, but it was no match for Israel. And we're now seeing Iran, again, is no match. It's just completely outgunned by Israel, which is saying it has control of the skies over Iran. But
Iran linked, of course, to Hezbollah, and Iran linked, of course, to Hamas. So
which is why, of course, Israel attacked Iran, because he's done so much damage already, Israel, to the proxies, as the allies.
They were proxies, and also in Syria, where they supported the Assad regime through Hezbollah.
Oh, they were extended armed wing.
Yeah, they couldn't do it any longer, and Assad fell. But their proxies were a defensive or an offensive forward weapon of Iran. They've gone, and now Iran itself is vulnerable.
But it's not just Trump who's making threats. The Israeli ambassador to the US said yesterday, this is the war to end wars. This is the war to engender peace in the Middle East. And he was harking back to that audacious bombs in pages plot, which basically beheaded Hezbollah last year. He says, we've pulled off a number of surprises. He was talking about that. And when the dust settles, you're going to see some surprises this Thursday night and Friday that will make that beeper operation almost seem simple.
They're not even subtle. I mean, they're telegraphing in advance what they're doing, and it doesn't seem Iran can do anything to stop it.
Remember the beeper, the exploding beepers, which was incredible how they got, they somehow got into the supply chain and put these in. They were killing civilians as well. Now, we've got to remember, civilians, children, women, innocent men are dying too in Iran in this attack. No, but that's why we want to de-escalate, to stop people being killed. Don't want people killed in Israel. Don't want people killed in Iran.
Yesterday, of course, President Trump had slapped down the French president, Emmanuel Macron, because Emmanuel Macron had said he was leaving the G7 summit to work on a ceasefire.
Seems the reverse is true.
Yeah, President Trump said that was absolute nonsense. And, in fact, America considering striking Iran's nuclear sites, including this Fordo facility, which is a nuclear site in a mountain. I mean, deep in a mountain. You'd have to get through so much to get there. But they have what they call a bunker-busting bomb, which America could drop on this nuclear site. Now, in terms of escalate, that is not de-escalating.
That's a massive escalation.
That's a massive escalation. And what do we in the UK think about that? Because we do not want Iran to have nuclear weapons.
We don't. And if that
but do we want America to drop a bomb on their nuclear site?
It's so difficult. Look, if the bunker buster works, that's it over for Iran's nuclear programme for decades.
Well, that weapon...
that makes the world a safer place.
It is an extraordinary piece of equipment.
Yeah.
It's an iron spear, in effect, incredibly hard, packed with high explosive. It can get through 65 feet of reinforced concrete. So they're pretty confident that if not just one, but if a number of them were launched by the Americans, they would have to be by the Americans, because only the stealth bombers can carry them. That would, you're right, that would mean the end of the war if they were successful, because that's mission accomplished.
Well, and then we'll then have terror attacks forever and a day.
That's the thing, it's the law of unintended consequences.
I feel this is all... In a way, it's military PR, and we're going to solve this. They call it kinetic means by big explosions, setting him back. Actually, you've got to turn, right? It's an incredibly unpopular regime in Iran, but people in Iran may hate their regime, but they will hate being bombed even more. We saw this with Iraq. We're in danger of repeating all the old mistakes.
We can't let Iran develop a nuclear bomb. Nobody in their right minds would want to do that.
No, but you can stop Iran developing a nuclear bomb with treaties and agreements and lifting sanctions.
Yes, you've been trying that for years. But look at where we are now.
You've bought the line, though, Richard. You've bought the line.
Yes,
there was an agreement that was successfully working.
Which Trump in America, the reason Trump cancelled it was he didn't believe that Iran would be true to their word.
Iran would be 3 years away from developing a bomb, but there is no evidence they've decided to actually go ahead and develop the bomb.
Why is Iran refusing to allow UN weapons inspectors, nuclear inspectors, to visit their sites now? They won't let them in anymore.
They
have something to hide.
It's because they've got incredibly tough sanctions imposed, and they want sanctions to be lifted, and then they will cooperate. That's the whole idea of the deal. When there was a deal in the past, it was actually Obama's regime. Britain signed it. I think France, Germany signed it. Russia signed it. It was an international deal, and it was to get their programme solely for civilian nuclear power, and sanctions would be lifted with checks. Trump broke the deal. It wasn't Iran. It was Trump who broke the deal.
Because he didn't believe in it.
It was because it was signed by a predecessor, and you know how he behaves. He's a loose cannon.
I'm no defender of Trump.
He shoots everywhere. Look, you can stop Iran developing a nuclear weapon without killing people.
You can't do it with treaties. They don't do treaties. And remember, it's not a democracy, Iran. It's not a democracy.
Well, look, Hitler and Stalin had a treaty, and Hitler broke it and invaded Russia.
Yeah, but look, the UK government thought Iran was not developing nuclear weapons when there was a treaty in place.
We agree to differ.
Oh, yes, and we wait to see what Trump has been discussing in the Situation Room. Just on the G7, before he left, of course, there was that moment, wasn't there, where Trump brought out the deal that he'd signed with the UK, the trade deal, opened it up, and of course, all the pages of the deal then fell onto the floor because no one had stapled them in. Trump wasn't going to go and pick up his own...
He's got his vassal to do that for him. He's got his little Prime Minister to do it.
Starmer picked it up for him, but it's interesting because our political correspondent, Louisa James, is out in Banff and had a sit-down interview, well, a stand-up interview, actually, with the Prime Minister, and asked, amongst all the important stuff that she asked him about, she asked him about that moment.
I'm sure.
And you had to pick it up and deliver it with your own hands?
Well, I was conscious that there's a lot of security around the President, and if anybody else had dashed forward to pick up the papers, I'm not quite sure how that would have ended. But the most important thing is we got that executive order.
He was protecting anyone else who might have nipped in to pick up the papers, because I thought that was quite an interesting image. If you rush towards the President in order to clear up his mess, there's enough security around him, you might get shot.
But the security men could have also picked it up. The President could have picked up his own papers. He's not incapable.
He doesn't do that.
But actually, Keir Starmer's a well-brought-up, polite bloke. If you were standing next to somebody and they
You wouldn't have picked up my papers.
I probably would.
doubt that.
If you were more infirm...
Yeah.
Was he...
Well, Kevin is a little older than me, of course.
Richard and I are well brought up.
Kevin is a little older than me, so maybe he would have picked up my papers.
I think he followed his instinct. It was an instinctive thing. I mean, he talks now about security. I think he just followed his instinct.
Yeah.
He's standing next to a much older man with dodgy knees, so he bent down and got the paper.
I mean, look, he plays golf trump, so he'll know how to, put his tee down and the ball down.
Well, he's got a caddy as well, I presume, who does that for him.
He would have been purring with pleasure, the President, trust me.
Probably, yeah.
Let's bring it back to politics here. Can Sir Keir Starmer pick up the pieces on the welfare reform bill? It's expected to be published today. It's going to cut benefits. It's been hugely controversial, particularly amongst Labour MPs themselves. So it's going to save £5 billion a year by 2030. The welfare bill is going up and up and up. We are going to talk to two people who are very upset about this because they have both benefited from PIP, personal independence payments. But the government says it's really important to cut the bill. And, Andrew, I know you would say it's very popular. So we've asked people, viewers, to let us know this morning. Currently, more people against because they benefit from PIP. Blue Moon, I work, but I'm unable to use public transport. PIP pays for taxis. And if that stops, I will struggle to get to work. Chantal, I have several illnesses. They limit my life. PIP has been cut in half. I'm a single mum of 3 and life is hard enough without that. Jeff says I rely on PIP. I'm on the breadline. If my PIP is cut, I won't be able to get to a hospital, to doctors, to physio appointments by taxi. I have osteoarthritis in my ankles, knees, hips, shoulders, elbows, hands and spine.
Susanna, there's a substantial minority on the other side of the fence. Let me read those out to counterbalance. Andy says, I agree with the total reform of the benefit system. I know 2 people, both have alcohol problems. They live with each other. They've saved £14,000. I've worked all my life. I've never claimed a pound in benefits, yet I can't save because of the cost of living. Deborah says on the email, I know people on PIP of whom they can work, they have holidays, they have the latest tech, they have the newest cars, and they use their benefits to pay for IVF. I work 50 hours a week, and I struggle to pay for a simple life with the rent and the bills. I don't have holidays, I don't have a car. It makes me so angry. Now, that's the other side of the... There's a lot of anger out there over the ballooning welfare
Of course,
costs.
when it's paid to the right people, it's a good benefit. It helps them get into work if you're disabled. But the bill is soaring out of all proportion. What was it, 21 billion 2020? It's going to be 30 billion or something?
You're exactly right. 2023 to 24, it was 21.8 billion, and it is projected to soar over 32 billion pounds.
It's unsustainable. And I'm sorry I have to be sceptical. I can't see why so many more people are going to need this disability benefit in this short space of time.
Well, this might explain it.
There must be people fiddling the system.
Well, or the number of PIP awards for anxiety and depressive disorders more than doubled since 2019. And what did we have after 2019? The pandemic.
We'll tackle that, but this will be taken, these cuts, which could be as many as 1.3 million people, and the payments are between, £30 a week and £190 a week, and they're intended for you to live independently, to go to work or go on holiday. It's all about you can't physically or mentally do certain things now. If there's an explosion of young people, then you can go online and see this is what you have to say to claim it. And so if some people are fiddling, as you put it, deal with that. But this is much wider. The people who lose it here will include people who can't wash the lower part of their body because they can't bend. Do we really want to live in a society like that, where we're abandoning those people? It's all about independent living. And it's the cases that will hurt the government. Because as people come on and we read about their lives and we hear about their lives and what they're losing, that's what will damage Labour.
Yes, and also, if, like I just read out that comment from a viewer, if the support he is currently getting enables him to work, and that support is withdrawn, he stops being able to work, and then he claims a different benefit.
If they're genuine...
Because he's unable to work.
If they're genuine, everything should be fine.
But there's also...
There's a lot of people, I'm afraid, just can't be genuine.
I just
don't buy these
Andrew,
figures.
I'm not sure this is a crackdown on people fraudulently claiming the benefit, because I don't think that that's a significant number of people. This is actually withdrawing the benefit from people who claim it currently perfectly legitimately.
But
they're just going to lower the threshold.
The figure could be £190 a week. That's a lot of benefit.
Yeah, but
that's a lot of money.
I tell you,
that's £800 a month.
You'd have to be severely disabled
and
to
those people probably
get that.
will still be able to claim that benefit.
You would hope
because
so, but I think all the individual cases and the government's own impact study show these cuts will put 250,000 people in poverty, including 50,000 children. Do you want to do that? Do you want to put 50,000 children, 250,000 in all into poverty?
Who don't,
and
so
this
they'll rebel.
This government took the winter fuel benefit away from pensioners who could barely afford to turn the heating on.
Yeah, and then it reinstated it. And, of course...
Because of the public backlash?
Yes. Huge U-turn there. Had a U-turn on grooming gangs as well.
We're going to get one on child benefit cap.
The 2 child benefit cap. Do you think that the government looks, at this stage, weak and therefore activists think they've got a chance, Labour MPs think they've got a chance of changing the government's stand on disability
We also had a
benefits?
U-turn this week on grooming gangs.
Exactly.
I mean, major I don't know what this Prime Minister stands for. I've never known what he stands for. I've never seen what the narrative of this government is, what it believes in. I've no clue. So possibly there will be another U-turn. But they can't balance the books. They're struggling to balance the books already.
The formed currently are ones which basically he's gone with the tide of public opinion.
He's gone because of the threat of reform.
Well, yes, and you could argue that he's done it for purely political reasons. On this, fundamentally, public opinion is behind him. So it's unlikely, I think, that he'll do a U-turn because he has the support of the electorate.
But for 2 things, I think it can change quickly when you get the cases coming forward.
I agree with you.
Real people, real lives, because we can talk in big, broad figures. You can talk about people fiddling, but when you get real people and you read about their conditions, how they live their lives, and they're going to be hurt, punished, I think the mood can change very quickly. But he's a Labour Prime Minister. He's elected leader of the Labour Party. He's a Labour Prime Minister. And a lot of Labour MPs, you hear it, we shouldn't be doing this. You expected George Osborne, the Tories, to do it. We shouldn't be doing this.
Can I talk about something else where I think public opinion is pretty strong at the moment, and that's the European Convention on Human Rights. We have this morning our incredible reporter, Paul Brand, ITV News home news editor. He's done a 6-month investigation revealing that fugitives from Brazil, they're wanted for serious crimes, including 1 for murder and 1 for child rape.
Repeated child rape.
Are being allowed to stay in the UK by using the European Convention on Human Rights.
Human rights.
Yeah, but, OK, it's Article 3, and Article 3 protects against torture and inhuman treatment. This is the issue. So we've got Marlon Martins dos Santos, convicted in Brazil, repeatedly raping a 5-year-old girl, fled to the UK, used protection against torture and inhuman treatment back home to avoid being extradited, and while he was allowed to stay here in Britain, he reoffended and was convicted of possessing and distributing over 1,000 child abuse images, including the most serious category.
He's a disgusting paedophile who should be deported.
So he's a
and
disgusting
who cares if he's got
paedophile.
trouble
He's
when
a
he gets back to Brazil?
Risk to children.
The judge in the hearing said, he said, if this guy goes back to Brazil, he will probably be tortured, therefore we have to allow him to stay.
Well, he should have thought about that before he abused these children.
Has that gone all the way through the system? And is he in prison at the moment?
He's in prison at the
right
moment.
now,
Just deport him at the end.
Well, the other guy, the alleged murderer.
No, but hang on, Kevin, can we? Because if ECHR says he needs to be protected from torture and inhuman treatment over in Brazil...
He'll stay here, and we'll pay for him.
He'll stay here.
Brazil's a big country. If he's wanted in one area, he can go to another.
The judge won't see it like that.
Most of these cases fail, actually, when you get all the way through the processes. And it kind of makes the convention more unpopular than it should be, because it protects us.
So far, they are being allowed to stay. The other guy, just to tell his story, he's wanted for murder in Brazil. It's a guy called De Brito. He fled here in 2019, immediately after, allegedly, he'd ordered the murder of a rival gang member in Brazil. He's a bad man. He's actually out on the loose here. He runs a motorcycle repair business in London, and he is absolutely defiant and says he has no intention of going home. And again, the judge agreed.
Do we have an extradition treaty with Brazil?
Do
we have an extradition treaty with Brazil? And if we don't, let's get one and extradite.
No, we've got to change this European court to stop going banging on about their human rights. It's an outrage.
It gets blamed for stuff it isn't responsible for.
Well, it is here 2 times.
And we've had so many cases. I don't know about Paul's cases here. But we've had so many cases you read in the paper and say, oh, the infamous, I shall say, chicken nuggets case. Somebody couldn't be deported because the kid didn't like foreign chicken nuggets, we were told, when in fact, actually, that was dismissed by the judge, who said, oh, not liking chicken nuggets is not an excuse.
But this is a very different story.
It really is.
I'm sorry, this is completely different.
There are many more examples of it. The European Court of Human... If we stay in it, we've got to reform it massively to get this nonsense about human rights taken out.
Yeah, and...
or we leave it all together. Or we leave it all together.
The Lord Chancellor...
We set it up.
Yeah, the Lord Chancellor today will tell ambassadors, the Council of Europe, reform is needed.
Absolutely.
The ECHR... So this is a Labour government that backs the ECHR but wants it reformed because, presumably, she is concerned about exactly cases like this.
Or if they don't reform, we've got to leave it all together.
Very quickly, a study has shown that couples who vote together stay together. Couples who go their separate ways at the ballot box tend to go their separate ways in life. It's one of the big irreconcilables of a relationship. If one person leans to the left and their partner leans to the right, for example, there is usually grounds for divorce down the line. You have to get on politically as a couple.
Fortunately, we get on politically. Myself and my other half.
I'd have thought whether you leave the toilet seat or while you put it down is probably a bigger issue in most houses.
I think my other half makes me look liberal.
Whether you close the fridge door, whether you stack the dishwasher correctly.
Absolute rubbish, because look at you two. You two are like the perfect couple.
Yeah, but we're not married, fortunately.
Well, I expect you spend more time together, actually, than you do in a day with your other half.
You always leave the studio laughing.
We do, actually.
Whenever you said to each other, whenever you said to him, for example, you are talking, as usual, arrant rubbish.
Yeah, exactly.
You almost hold hands when you leave the set.
I would say I've known Kevin for 35 years and he's been wrong for 30.
Yeah, but
the bromance works.
But you can disagree without being disagreeable, and that doesn't
mean
you become fiery at sometimes. You get really annoyed.
But I do know couples. I do know couples who broke up over Brexit.
Yes, right. That was it. Yes, the report says that was a big issue. 60% more likely to break up over Brexit.
Well, it was a big issue in Michael Gove, the former cabinet minister, and his wife Sarah's
Well, she's written about this
marriage,
in her memoir, which I think you're talking about.
Yeah,
next week.
I know a man who voted Leave, but told his wife that he'd voted Remain.
Oh, to keep the peace.
Do you want to name that man?
No, he confessed to me in his cups one night.
Richard
Madeley. Don't tell her.
Confession, it's Richard Madeley.
A friend of a friend.
I'm a very good friend.
What's a friend?
A source close to. Thank you both very much indeed.
Thank you, guys.